respond to Amber's post in the group me chat? Are we ready? It's going. It's getting there.
It's thinking about it.
There we go. Good evening, Cache County, and welcome to the House District 3 debate. We are here with incumbent Representative Val Potter and challenger Mike Petersen. We appreciate both candidates being here this evening, and we appreciate the limited audience that we do have in attendance here tonight. We ask that you tune in on Facebook on our Cache County Party page, and we will have it downloaded and then uploaded to our website as soon as possible. So tonight, my name is, I probably should have introduced myself for those of you who don't know me. I am Chris Booth. I'm the chairman of the Cache County Republican Party, and it is my honor to introduce both candidates tonight. First, Representative Potter. Val has lived in Cache County most of his life, is a fifth-generation resident of the Valley, and his family has been here since 1860. He's married to Nancy, has 3 grown children and 9 grandchildren that I'm sure get spoiled rotten. He lives in North Logan, where he enjoys gardening and raising crops for his family and neighbors. His parents, 2 sisters, and his daughter were educators, and he spent spare time working a family farm and cattle ranch in Box Elder County. He's a graduate of Utah State University in business administration and was on the USU track team while at USU. He has continued to run and completed 10 marathons around the U.S., along with several Ragnar relays. Representative Potter.
Great, thanks very much, Chris.
Hang on, I'm sorry, hang on one second, sorry.
You're
Sorry, I'm going to introduce both candidates real quick. I apologize. First time I've done this, so.
Me too.
Okay, first about Mike Petersen. Mike and his wife Sally moved to North Logan 30 years ago, so he could attend graduate school at Utah State University. They've been blessed with 4 children and 9 grandchildren. He is a small business owner that designs and develops teaching and training materials, and his wife is a speech pathologist for the Cache County School District, and Cache Valley is where they call home. And so now we'll turn the time over to each of the candidates. A coin toss was held previously. Representative Potter won the coin toss, and he will go first, followed by Mike Petersen, and then we have Jeff Cox is moderating our debate tonight, and we have Shelley Giddings, our vice chair, who is the official timekeeper.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for putting this together. Jeff, thanks for moderating. Janine for running things, and Shelley also, thanks for all you're doing, the timing. It's an honor to be here. I don't know that I like being back in a tie. It's been months since I've had one on. A little bit about me. I've served in the House of Representatives for 3.5 years. I enjoy working for the people, solving problems at the state level. I feel like I need to mention the current events that are going on. That's on all of our minds. I'm really sad about what's happening. I pray for open communications and that justice be served. Also, it would be wrong to not, at this time, forget the sacrifice of Officer Nathan Lyday from Ogden, who gave his life in service. His ceremony and funeral will be tomorrow in Ogden. I appreciate the support of our law enforcement and for all that they do. And sometimes we forget all the great things they do to keep our community the way it is. I've passed several bills for the sheriff and for law enforcement in the last few sessions. The latest one was a phased retirement bill for law enforcement. This keeps officers and deputies on the job, gives them an opportunity to retire in place while they still work and take advantage of some of the retirement. We have a serious problem with retention and keeping officers in the profession. It's a very difficult thing, as you can imagine. The media doesn't play us any favors there. Also, there's an alternative training program that I was able to pass last year in county jails for state prisoners housed in county jails. This gives them an opportunity to get some additional training, social, financial, emotional skills to train them and better prepare them for life outside incarceration. It's been a very successful program for the last year. Also, with Terrell Warner in the Cache County Victims Advocate, we passed Cache Achieve, which allows the convicted an option under certain offenses to go to technical school instead of being incarcerated. Based upon the offense, it has to be a certain offense, but that's worked very well. We've had a number of graduates, and none of them have had any problems with breaking the law since. I think that's a program that we're going to see grow. Right now, it's being operated in Cache County and in Washington County. For the last 4 sessions, we've had town halls every week during the session. It's over 60 town halls that we've had. We have them also during the summer, thanks to Senator Hilliard pushing us to do them. There are months in the summer that it's tough to do, but Senator Hilliard never lets us get away with it. I also send out regular emails to my constituents. I receive regular emails. I respond to the people in my district. I have daily calls. I have meetings regularly to keep people in touch with what's going on in the legislature. I care about Utah, and I want to use my experience. Great.
Thank you. And like Representative Potter, I want to begin by, it's not a question, but I'd like to begin by addressing the riots and things that are happening across our country right now. I join all Utahns in expressing regret and sadness, frustration about what's going on. It's unfortunate that George Floyd was killed by folks who should have been protecting him and defending him. In regards to those who are protesting right now, I say, isn't it wonderful that we live in a country with First Amendment rights and we're able to voice our thoughts? Having said that, those who are participating in the mayhem, those folks need to be taken to justice. And police officers across the country who have feelings similar to those of those police officers in Minneapolis, they need to be let go from their forces and they need to be brought to justice. I want to thank the Cache County Republican Party and all of you folks for hosting this tonight. I know this is not an easy thing to do, especially under these circumstances. And I want to thank you, Val, for joining for this. You didn't have to do this, and I appreciate you being here. And I have to say, over these last few months, I've seen firsthand how much you've had to go through. This is not an easy thing for a family to go through, and I appreciate what the sacrifices you and your family have made these last years as you've served North Logan City and the county and now here in the state. And I want to thank, of course, the voters who are watching tonight, those who are taking this seriously. Some have been saying that I'm running a negative campaign, and I need to address that. I think Val and I have always had an amicable relationship over the years, and I hope that at the end of this campaign we can still be friends. I hope that Val feels the same way that I do. I'm glad that we live in a free country where we can express our feelings and our viewpoints about things. I'm going to say the same things tonight that I've been saying on the campaign trail. Nothing new. You can judge for yourselves if what I'm saying is negative. I'm simply trying to cite the voting record of our current rep. If it's negative, I think it says far more about the voting record of the representative than anything else. There's conservative groups across this state who rank our reps, and oftentimes they rank our current representative among the lowest of all the Republicans, even lower sometimes than some of the Democrats. And let me just share one example, and that's the Utah Taxpayer Association. The Utah Taxpayer Association is a Utah-based nonprofit 501c3 organization that works to limit state and local taxes, making Utah an attractive place to live and to do business. They rank our current representative number 9, lowest of all 75 representatives, number 9. And I think we can do better. As we go through tonight's debate, I hope to be able to help you learn how I would be a good representative for you at the state capitol. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. We'll now move on to our first question. And the first question is exactly the same to both of you. Mr. Petersen, you will start. What would you like to see changed in the Cache County Republican platform? Do you plan to vote consistent with the platform? Why are you a Republican? Do you consider yourself to be a conservative, and why? 2 minutes each.
I love the county platform, Jeff. I think that it's a great reflection of the hopes, the desires, the beliefs that we as conservative Republicans have here in this valley. In fact, I think it could be said that the platform is sort of a practical extension of the U.S. Constitution. And I appreciate that we have this document by which we can form and vote on legislation. So let me give you one example of how I think the platform would color the choices, the voting of a representative. This last year, the House had HB 261, limiting eminent domain. It would have limited the state's ability to take private property from citizens for recreational purposes like trails or bike trails or soccer fields. In fact, our platform, let me just read one little spot from it. It says, ownership and control of private property are essential to individual liberty, and the rights of property owners should be vigorously preserved. Unfortunately, our current representative voted to allow the state to continue to take away property, your property, for recreational purposes. And I can't imagine that's something you'd want to have happen, to have your yard, your field, your home taken away for a soccer field or for a trail. I commit to aligning my votes, my bills, to the party platform. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to rebut that.
It's your turn to answer the question, so just go ahead.
Okay, very good. I'd like to rebut the question and then answer my... 2 minutes. Okay, perfect. All right, to be clear on eminent domain, that bill didn't pass committee. I voted against it in committee regarding eminent domain. For the record, I don't like eminent domain, but it's a necessary tool of government. That bill was opposed by the Department of Transportation, by the school districts, by the Association of Counties, and the League of Cities. That was a bad bill that put additional restrictions on governments that go through the process in an unusual situation where one landowner does not give up property that's deemed right for the public good for transportation and schools. And in that situation, it would have really hurt. It would have cost millions of dollars fighting lawsuits that we as taxpayers don't need to fight. So that's why I voted against that. Now, regarding my conservative, I am a conservative. I believe in God, family, country, financial conservative. I believe in traditional values. I represent the people who elected me, which is 40,000 people in Cache County. I vote consistent with the platform. I don't believe in increased taxes, and I've proven that in the city and in the county and in the state. With regard to tax reform, let me just say for the record that the Taxpayer Association endorses me for re-election. They endorse me because of my support for tax reform. I'm number 41 on the Taxpayers Association list, and also your friend Phil Lyman is number 52. So I stand up for the rights, I stand up for the taxpayers. The Taxpayer Association and the other organizations are lobbyists, and I don't support lobbyists. I won at the Republican convention from Republican delegates, twice as county council, 6 times as state central committee, that's 12 years on the state central committee, twice as a state legislator, and I just won the Republican convention in April by 60%. I am a Republican, I am conservative, I do represent the party and my district. I look forward to continuing to serve and making good decisions for the sake of Cache County. Thank you.
Question number 2, Representative Potter starts with you, and then when he's done, I'll have a separate question for you. Sorry, I'll back up. They're exactly the same question, so just go. Grade Utah's coronavirus response. Compare the federal government response and how other states manage the crisis. What should Utah do in the next session to prepare for the future? Representative Potter, 2 minutes, then Mr. Petersen, 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think President Trump did what he should have done with the information that he had. The states, some did it right, some didn't. I think Utah did a very good job. Cache County in particular, this area, the Bear River Health Department District, did exceptionally well. I receive daily updates, as do the other legislators from the Health Department and Lloyd Berenson. He answers to an elected board of county officials, and he responds to them. It's not him going free on decisions. He is overseen by a board that control that. We learned a great deal from COVID here in Cache County. We're tracking cases, we're isolating those that are affected, and there was no surge here because of that. Also, something to be to understand about this is that there was no mandatory stay-at-home order in Cache County. We're very lucky, and that was a wise decision on the part of the health department. I trust the health department, and with proper input for businesses and elected officials, we're going to move through this. the personal responsibility of individuals is very important as we move forward. We're not through this. We're not done with the COVID crisis. For the next session, that was one of the questions about this. Right now, currently, immunity in the state of Utah is about 3%, extremely low, which is good and bad. We need about a 50 to 60% immunity so that this doesn't come back in a big way. Schools and businesses need to get open. We need them back open now. We need the economy moving. The responsibility on this means we need to take care of ourselves. If we have health situations in our life, we need to make sure that we're staying away from others and social distancing. Education moving forward is going to be a challenge. I highly endorse schools getting back to work, but those that have health issues should stay away and not get involved. And I think moving forward, we're going to be very safe. But it's personal responsibility we need to do. Thank you.
Yeah, the state of Utah has actually fared very well with COVID, especially when we compare it to other states. And I think one of the main reasons that's happened is because of our culture here in Utah, a culture of preparedness, a culture of self-reliance, a culture of healthy living. If we look across the country and see other states that haven't fared so well, oftentimes it's correlated with states who aren't doing those things, especially in regards to healthy living. But I have to say that I was disappointed in Governor Herbert's response, the strict guidelines and orders that he's put out, and I've also had a concern about our legislature, who back in March 12th voted to uphold that until June 20th, in fact, or June 30th of this month. The reason I'm concerned is because, weeks ago and months ago, we've learned that really the folks who we need to be concerned with we know who the folks who are at high risk. And I wish that our state would spend our resources, our time, our energy, our monies on the high risk folks. Instead, we've shut down so much of the state, and we're suffering depression, we're suffering 10% unemployment, we're suffering more domestic violence. We need to open up. I believe that families will fare better when churches and communities and families are able to learn the proper way to deal with it, and then they'll govern themselves.
Thank you, gentlemen. Question number 3 is to you, Mr. Petersen, and then I'll have a separate question for you. You own your own business and have served as the president of the board on the Intech High School and on the board of the Cache Valley Transit District. How will this experience influence your contribution as a legislator? 2 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, our state budget has increased since 2015. We've gone from $13.5 billion to $20 billion. But I'll bet your wages haven't kept up with that kind of a pace, and I'll bet you haven't noticed that many new services in Utah to take care of you. I started my company 23 years ago, and the purpose of my business really is to help other organizations, do better in their own things, help them innovate, be more effective, more efficient. On the CVTD, I got to serve as the president there, and what I really want to do was, again, innovate and have more efficiency. That's why we folded the LTD into the CVTD. That's why we made a standard of how many riders needed to be on a route. Routes that didn't have riders, we had to eliminate. We needed to get the most bang for the buck. In fact, it was your buck we were trying to take care of. And then we even turned the buses into traveling billboards as a way to generate revenue. At Intech High School, it was a great opportunity to work with dedicated teachers and principals, and we helped to turn that struggling Intech Collegiate High School into one of the most award-winning schools in this state and even in this country. I want to help our government and our education find more innovative ways to be more cost-effective. Thank you.
Representative Potter, you have served in every political elected position in the Valley, from mayor to county council, Cache GOP, executive committee, state central committee, Bragg, and the Utah House. You served as the USU Extension Economic Development Director. How has this influenced your contribution as a legislator? 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm reapplying for the job I currently have. My question is, would you hire somebody to run your business with years of experience and a successful track record, or somebody that doesn't have experience in that area? The state is your business, and I'm asking for your choosing me to continue to serve. My experience has gotten me leadership positions in the House of Representatives. I'm the go-to person for much of the legislation that affects governments regarding cities and counties, law enforcement, business, and economy. Leadership doesn't just happen. You have to prove yourself, and that's what I've done through hard work. For review of what I've accomplished, go to my Facebook page, go to my website at votevalpotter.com. I carry bills every year for the sheriff, county attorney, county government, elections, special districts. I did one this year for the local plumbing contractor regarding some modifications to water heaters, restrictions that shouldn't have been there, and we changed it. I've done several bills for public education. I will be the only legislator, with the departure of Senator Okerlund, I'll be the only legislator with elected city and county experience in the legislature. It matters. Let me use an example of many bills that come before the legislature are restricting what happens at the city and the county level. What happens at the city and county level is closest to the people, and that's most important. And for the legislators who have had no experience at the city and the county level to make decisions like that should not happen. And I've fought hard for the rights of the city councilmen, the mayors, the county councilmen, the county and city employees, and I've worked hard to make that happen. I support local government. I've proven it, and I hope to continue to do so.
Thank you. Question number 4 is to you, Representative Potter. You supported the 2019 special session tax reform bill with a significant fiscal surplus. Why was this change needed, and what should the legislature do in 2021? 2 minutes.
Thank you. This bill was repealed due to the food and gas tax and the referendum regarding that. I opposed food and gas tax, but tax reform itself was necessary and is necessary, and I supported it for that reason. Considering what was said there about the $240 million surplus, this is today's Tribune. It says, on the chopping block, funding for schools, social services. And in the article, it goes through all of the appropriations committees in the state. They're all being slashed up to 10%. We're talking $1 billion cut from the budget this year. This is a serious thing. The $240 million surplus, that's gone, or it's going to be modified significantly. We will maintain the rainy day fund as required by the Constitution, but we may have to bond to do that. Also, in explanation of what my opponent was saying, the population has increased by over 1 million people in the last 5 years. This means higher incomes, which means a higher state budget and more needs in education, infrastructure, law enforcement, social services. That $5 billion increase in the budget has come from income and sales tax, not from new taxes. And that's very important to know. The services go up, the demand goes up, the income tax goes up, the sales tax goes up, and that's what's happened. As for tax reform, it's taking from the education fund, which is income tax, and putting it into the general fund. And that's very important going forward. Some of the things in the general fund, it's basically all of the departments, all of the services in the state. Law enforcement, agriculture, natural resources, social services, transportation, health and human services, aging services, substance abuse, all of those things fit under that. With that, that's my explanation on tax reform and why. Thank you.
Mr. Petersen, one of your objections to the tax bill was that not all services were taxed, effectively allowing the state to pick winners and losers. Explain your understanding of the tax revenue issue the legislature was trying to fix and how you would address the problem. 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, as a Republican, I support tax reform. In fact, I welcome tax reform. I want to make sure we get back to the principles that are taught within our party platform. As I see it, they're really, our tax issue is three-pronged. One is our state grapples with the imbalance between, we have an income tax over here that fluctuates, we have a sales tax over here that fluctuates, and so we need to get a handle on what's happening there. Our transportation funds obviously don't take care of what our needs are anymore in the state. And then finally, we do have spending. We do spend more. Each year we are spending more. I would argue that the special session held last December wouldn't have had to be held if we weren't increasing our spending. You are right. I do have problems with that bill, with that picking winners and losers. I want to know, in fact, folks I've talked with as I've been out on the campaign trail ask me, why do I as a dog groomer get taxed now? Why do tow truck operators? Why do funeral directors? Why not a lawyer? Why not tax folks? I would say this, that we need to attack these tax issues with three prongs. I would say, first of all, let's actually implement a zero-based budgeting process. We've talked about it. I don't know that it's actually happening yet. Let's have people pay for the roads they actually use, and finally, let's look at ways we can cut spending. I don't think that we have a revenue problem. Really, what we have is a spending problem. And let me just note this: aren't we glad that the tax reform bill didn't come to pass? Because we're already struggling, as just pointed out, we're already struggling for education dollars, and we would have had even less had we done what we had planned to do. Thank you.
The only rebuttal I'd have on that would be regarding the goal of tax reform, which is to expand the base, lower the rate, and that was the intention there. As for winners and losers in the services, that wasn't my decision. That wasn't the work I was involved in. But the concepts of tax reform are important. At some point, we need to find a way to even those things out. The tax, the way it was structured, was set up in 1930. What happened in 1930 is way different than what's happening these days. So something needs to be done to enforce those various departments and services. And I know I say services and some people get upset, but the fact is government exists because private industry can't take care of certain things. Government takes care of those services. And that's what we need them for: education, higher education, infrastructure, social services, things like that. And that's where that money comes from. So that was my comment there.
Mr. Petersen, back to you. You signed the pledge to not raise taxes. Your future Republican House members want to raise the food tax, gas tax for what they thought were good reasons. How are you going to approach the situation if elected? 2 minutes.
Thank you. So, as most of you know, I do have a small business. And in 2008, when that recession occurred, it was a rough time. It was a rough time for my family, for those who worked with me. We had to rely on our food storage. We relied on our savings. But one thing we didn't do, we didn't go around asking our neighbors or even demanding our neighbors to hand over money to support us. Again, our state budget has increased significantly from $13.5 to $20 billion in 5 years. And out on that campaign trail, I've talked to a lot of folks who talked about their frustrations, especially as we got into Cove and Richmond and Benson and folks who had these big properties. The tax burdens are becoming just too great for them. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for a state legislature to solve this issue. I think the last time that the state really tackled this, they spent several years. They spent several years addressing tax reform. The other thing, so I think that the state, we just need to learn to tighten our belt. And I think it's going to be tough, but I think we can do it. And I think what we're doing because of the COVID-19 is actually proof that we can tighten our belts. Finally, what I would do at the state legislature to help is I think I would remind my fellow legislators that the role of government is to secure our liberties and not to provide services and answers to every problem that they might encounter. Thank you.
Representative Potter, you promise to keep government minimal and effective. How did the special session tax bill fulfill this promise? Which state program cuts were discussed to help with this tax revenue problem? 2 minutes.
Great. Nearly all the programs in the state were cut last year. I personally cut $20 million per year in my budget from the U-Star program. We did away with U-Star. We also had huge cuts in GOED, Governor's Office of Economic Development. I've reduced the budget 2% each year. All budgets have been cut in the past year. That's all state budgets except for public education. I review with the department heads of the 9 departments that answer to me. I review line by line what's going on in their budget with each of the department heads. I did the same thing in North Logan City with the police, public works, fire, everyone else. I did the same thing in the county. I budget line by line to make sure that what's happening is what needs to happen from the elected people's perspective as well as the people's perspective. I believe in minimal and effective government. That's what I've done in the state, and that's what I did in the county and the city. Check my record. It's out there. Everything I've done is public. If you want to see anything I've done in the state legislature, go to my name. You can look at the legislature, the legislative bills I've carried. You can look at my time on the floor, my time in committee, the bills that I've carried, the statements I've made on the floor. It's all there. It's all public. That's the proof in what I say. I can talk all day, but the fact is it's there. If you want to go back in North Logan, Cache County, and see what I've done, the records are there. This is an open book. This is for the public to review. I'm elected by the public. I answer to the public. The entire budget this year, as I said, will be cut by about $1 billion or 10%. And with that, we are still one of the best managed states. The reason we can do this is because we are one of the best managed states in the U.S. We have a AAA bond rating. Not many states. There's only a handful that are. So with that, thank you.
All right, back to you, Representative Potter. As a university employee, why is college tuition rising faster than inflation and faster than the wages the graduates are offered when they graduate? 2 minutes.
Well, the state covers about 25% of the higher education budget. Tuition makes up the difference, as well as some donations and a little bit of federal money as well. Nationally, the cost for qualified professors has gone up. This is a nationwide problem. I don't support what's happening with the growth. However, let me be clear, higher education is very important to Utah. It's very important to our future. So, to grow the economy, we need to work with higher education and do the best we can. More online courses, working with them to cut where we can, but quality is very important. This is a nationwide situation with the cost of higher education. I personally have spent a lot of time with the technical colleges, the 8 technical colleges in the state of Utah, trying to build their programs. I spent 2 years on the Higher Ed Appropriations Committee. I still stay very close with them. That's an important area in the state, and that's where a lot of students in the future are going to go, is technical education. That really is a strong place to build the economy of the state of Utah. Higher ed, the 4-year degree is not for everybody, but those that go there, we want them educated, and that's why higher education is very important. Also, in talking to the higher ed administration, part of the increases in higher education comes due to social programs that are required by the state, by federal government, and by citizens. The pressure, for example, suicide prevention, mental health, other crimes that are happening on campus, the demand for additional work and people to be hired to take care of those problems has cost a lot of money. Thank you.
Mr. Petersen, you want to implement more effective and efficient ways to teach children and prepare them for careers, family, and life. Can you provide some details on the changes you will propose? 2 minutes.
So, first of all, I got to say, boy, doesn't this COVID pandemic thing, hasn't it taught us how resilient, how wonderful our teachers really are? That selfless service they give has been pretty amazing. Education has been a focus of my entire adult career. I got a master's of education with an emphasis in counseling, and I spent a few years at Logan High School as a counselor. My wife is a speech pathologist at Mountain Crest, and then I went back to school, did a PhD in instructional design and learning science. Again, education is in my heart. But my own education, my training, my research, the things I've done with countless other organizations to help them with their instruction has taught me that we could leverage the strength of technologies. And what I envision is that we could create technologies that would allow teachers to be free from some of the more mundane things that they have to teach, the things that the children have to memorize, so that they are free to be more one-on-one, so they're free to mentor, so that they're free to help children who are having specific problems, to help you know, so many teachers tell me, as I've been out on the road, so many teachers tell me how overwhelmed they are by all the curriculum, all the things that they have to teach. Well, let's free them up a bit. Let's remove some of the more mundane things that they have to teach and let them do what it is they want to, so they can build connections with their students, so that the students can experience the wonderful talents and abilities that their teachers have. Thank you.
All right, back to you, Mr. Petersen. You say you want to, quote, restore control to local school boards. How are you going to do it? 2 minutes.
Well, let me start by saying that I have an innate belief that people are good. People are strong, people are wise, people are capable. And I believe that communities reflect that. They're strong and able to do so much. Thomas Jefferson and others have been credited with the idea that the government closest to the people serves the people the best. And I think that's true with the local school board. I've served on the boards for Intercollegiate High School, for community councils here in the Valley, and I believe that each community has different needs, has different beliefs and different standards. And local school boards, working with their principals and other administrators, they're far better equipped. They're far better equipped to determine the ways that a school should move forward, better than our state and better than our feds. They'll make far better decisions. I want local school boards to be able to steer their schools more in line with the way the community wants to be steered. So how would I do that? I think we talk with our school board, our state school board, and we look for innovative ways to pass more and more opportunities to make choices to them. Thank you.
Representative Potter, do you think amending the Utah Constitution to allow the legislature flexibility to use income tax as needed is part of the answer to the state's tax structure problems?
I think it potentially is. Something needs to be done, as I talked about, regarding the imbalance. As I said, that was something that was put together in 1930. Times have changed. There was a vote that was passed in the legislature this year that made an opportunity for a ballot question to be put together for the people either this November or next November. I'm not sure which it'll come out. What that does is it states that services related to children in need and disabled children that now currently comes from the Social Services Fund would come from the Income Tax Fund. That would be put to the people to vote on. And as I said, I don't know if that'll be on the ballot this November or if it'll be pushed to next year due to the COVID crisis. But I think that's one possible way to help out with the budget imbalance. I don't think you're going to see a tax reform like we had before coming before the legislature anytime soon, which means we've got work to do. We've got to balance the budget. We've got to keep the state and the state services the way they need to be to take care of the needs of the people. That's why we're there. That's why state government does what it does. So that's what I would say regarding that. There are other things being considered and worked on regarding the structural imbalance. More will be coming. Thanks.
All right, this question is the same for both of you. Representative Potter, we'll start with you. COVID required distance learning to slow the spread of the virus. Did we learn anything through this experience that may influence how education is delivered in the future? 2 minutes each on the same question.
Great. Thanks so much. We've learned a lot. What we learned is considering the speed at which this hit us, most teachers were not prepared and they didn't have the tools to do the job well. This is not their fault. This is a problem that happened due to the timing of this. The children were out of school one day, and the teachers were told to put it together and get in contact with your students. As a point, I contacted an elementary school teacher that I know, and he said, we did our best, came online, and we got those that had computers, and we worked to get others with computers in the 5th grade class he taught. And most of them came along, and he was able to teach the class. But he said he lost 3 or 4 students. Just flat out lost them. They were gone. They never appeared. They never got computers. They never responded to the calls and the emails. That's a problem, and that's something that we will work on. Online is something that we need to prepare for in the future. COVID is going to be with us for a while until immunization is available, which isn't going to be immediate. So it's still around. There will be those that get sick. There will be those that are in jeopardy. And in that situation, we need to make sure that the online is being taken care of, and we prepare the tools for the teachers that they can take care of the students. Also, higher education is doing a great job with online, and they've come a long way. The online courses were already available in a lot of the courses in higher ed, and there's more that will be available moving forward. And that may be one of the resolutions to the cost of higher education. Thanks.
Yeah, it has been a difficult time. I watched my wife Sally and her colleagues as they struggled to learn Google Hangouts and Google Meets and how to really use Canvas the best they could. It's been a challenge. But I also think we learned that they are very resilient and very inventive. They did have lots of struggles, though. I also think we learned that our teachers and even our homeschooling parents need to be applauded for their efforts, because this has been a monumental undertaking they've had these last few months. I think we also learned that we're fortunate to be free of the tax reform bill that would have passed, because again, the dollars that would have gone into education would have been struggling. My life has been, my adult career has been about education, and these last 23 years has been primarily about online instruction, teaching from a distance. I've consulted and built educational products for federal agencies, including the USDA and the U.S. Air Force and for the U.S. Forest Service. I've consulted and built education products for Lockheed Martin, for Ernst & Young, for all kinds of folks, for here in the state of Utah, for the Ute Indian Tribe, and for the Department of Workforce Services, for the University of Chicago School of Medicine. This is what I do, and I think there's lots of things we could do to help our students, or help our teachers be better prepared for the next time they have to do this kind of a thing. And I look forward to the opportunity for leading the charge on how to be more innovative, using technologies and teachers to meet the needs of our students.
All right, Mr. Petersen, we're back to you. Amazon didn't choose Utah for their headquarters, but Facebook is coming to Utah. Should we offer tax breaks to companies to entice them to move to Utah? What is the government's role in economic development? How can we make Utah a place that businesses want to move to? 2 minutes.
You know, I think we need to treat all businesses equally. All companies should be able to thrive here in Utah. We shouldn't entice businesses with crony capitalist tax breaks. We should entice them with a stable economy. We should entice them with our highly educated population. We should entice them with our clean and wonderful, beautiful environment. We could all probably relate to this thing happening. You know, you have a cell phone. Maybe you use Sprint, and you think you have a great deal. And after a while, you talk to one of your friends who just signed up, and you find out, holy cow, they're getting it for half the cost you are. That's not very cool. And that's what happens here in our state sometimes. The role of government in economic development is really about reducing regulations, about reducing taxes, making it so that all companies can survive and even thrive here. We shouldn't be in the business of picking winners and losers. We shouldn't be in the business of picking which company or which industry. We should treat all businesses equally, the existing as well as the potential businesses. A vast majority of our businesses are small businesses. Most folks are employed by small business, and we need to treat them equally, fairly. Then they'll thrive, and they will provide the service and the products that we all enjoy and want more of. Thank you.
Representative Potter, you are the chair of the Business Econ Development and Labor-Based Budget at USU, and a strong supporter of economic development. What is the government's role in economic development? How can we make Utah a place that businesses want to move to?
Great. Minimal. What we need to do is minimal. It's already a great place. Utah's a great place to live. We've done a great job in managing the economic development in the state of Utah. Yes, it has cost some, but I think it's paid off in a big way. From surveys that I've heard throughout the state, some of the things that people complain about regarding the state and threaten the economic development, you can take that the way you want, is housing affordability, clean air, transportation issues, access to outdoor recreation. Those are some of the things that we hear. What we can do in the state is make better plans for all of these and ensure that we're doing all we can from our perspective to make sure that the economic development is going to happen itself. Now, let the private sector take care of what it does well and keep the economy growing. That's very important. Let government take care of the services it needs to do and those that can't be taken care of by the private sector. What the budget that I work with does through GoEd is offer post-performance incentives. For example, Maloof in Nibley applied for this and received a post-performance incentive. And with that, they're going to bring on up to 1,000 workers to expand their operation. If they achieve the structure and the goals that they set, they'll receive that incentive. If not, they won't. Another one is Autonomous Solutions out in Petersboro, started as a little startup company, offshoot of the university in robotics and electronics. They started from nothing, and now they've got over 200 well-paid employees working for them. They were going to move to Texas because of requirements to expand their road due to the size of the operation. I worked with them together with the county and the state to work out an incentive where they were able to keep their operation here and the high salaries and the employees who are working there. To ignore these issues is to hurt the economy. We need to support the economy the way we can, but mostly it's on the businesses.
So this question is to both of you, the same question, starting with Representative Potter. When markets fail, how should the government respond?
Okay, the federal government has most to say regarding bailouts and interest rates, not the state of Utah. Remove the barriers to building businesses and let businesses do what they do best. I'm not a bailout person. I don't believe much in that. I don't want the tax increases that come with bailouts. And again, that's what the federal government does. The state of Utah offers economic incentives, post-performance. My budget that I work with offers tourism marketing, which is an economic driver, and that's very important for the rural part of the state. They live on that. They need that. And that's been very important, and I've been fighting to make sure that the hospitality, tourism, restaurant, outdoor recreation industry is properly taken care of because they really are in need. Also, another thing I've done through my budget is the Rural Online Initiative, which is a program set up to help people in rural Utah to gain the skills to run a business in their home. That's a huge problem in the rural Utah. Their biggest export is their people. They raise kids, they send them out of rural Utah. We've got a real crisis in rural Utah. So I'm happy to be part of that and the Rural Online Initiative, and I will fight for those kinds of programs. That's what I've been good at, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Thank you. Yeah, it's probably the shortest but the most complex question you could ask tonight, I think, is what we do about markets that fail. But I want to channel for just a second Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, who once said something like, government is not the solution to our problem, government is the problem. And I want to give you 3 quick examples of how that might look. First, as we mentioned before, the recession of 2008. Well, that was in large part because of government intrusion into into home loan programs. The next problem I would state is the current one we're at. The market that's having problems because of COVID-19 and the response by both the feds and the state. I mean, as a nation now, we're about 30% unemployment. Here in the state, we're about 10% unemployment. And then finally, the last market issue that I think is significant is that the affordable housing issues. And I don't think it's because we haven't poured enough money into it. In fact, you know, when you think about who wants to put more money into it, it's Bernie Sanders, it's AOC, it's those folks. The real problem that we have with our affordable housing is, as I see it, is that city governments, with their zoning and their other ordinances, with high building permit costs and so forth. But you know, markets will take care of themselves. They only survive when they have customers. They only survive when they innovate and improve and continue to get more and more customers. I'll just end with this last simple example. We don't go to Blockbuster anymore. We sit on the couch and we turn on Netflix. Markets, they change. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Petersen, we're going to stick with you. Has the government's efforts to clean Cache Valley air worked? What will you do in the legislature to clean Cache Valley air? 2 minutes.
Well, I think our local government's done very good at following the mandates of the feds, and I think we are seeing some minor improvements here in our valley. Obviously, there's fewer old cars on the streets. Obviously, we're having fewer inversions. Let me bring up one other bill that happened in 2019, HB 357, the Voluntary Wood Burning Conversion Program. And I oppose this bill because it was a $14 million bill that would allow homeowners to access up to $4,000 to trade out a wood burning stove for an electric or gas stove, or fireplace, excuse me. But it's interesting because while I was knocking on doors, I actually spoke with two people who mentioned this to me and actually expressed some guilt over the program. Because they said, you know what, I kind of feel badly that I took money from everybody else for the upgrade to my home. I would have done it eventually, but because the state offered it, I took advantage of it. You know, if we really like that kind of a program, you kind of say, well, maybe the state ought to buy everybody a Tesla. That would solve a lot of emission problems. But obviously that's not going to happen. The greatest impact we can make on our air quality is through technologies, improving technologies. We need furnaces that are more efficient and lower emissions, and we need cars that are more efficient and have lower emissions. I'm not a Hyundai commercial, but I'll tell you what, I have a Hyundai Sonata hybrid. I can drive it back and forth to Bear Lake from my house. I get 52 miles a gallon. The electric motor's on almost the entire way coming home. We can teach folks about being idle, about not idling their cars, about multiple passengers, about using the buses. But again, it's the new and affordable technologies that are really going to solve the problem. And as prices continue to decrease and consumers can access them, air quality will improve. Thank you.
Great. Okay, I'm co-chair of the Clean Air Caucus in the legislature. I was on the county council also when we passed emissions testing. That was under the direction of the EPA with the Department of Air Quality overseeing it. I was not in favor of that. It did pass under pressure. It did pass. It's made an impact, but not a lot. I think the program is phasing out or should be phasing out because the vehicles in the county, there's very few that don't pass that emissions inspection. However, the air is getting better. We only had several red air days in Cache County in the last couple of years. Some of the things the legislature has done was we passed Tier 3 gas. That's a very important thing that really reduces the emissions coming out of vehicles. Although, as I said, vehicles are getting better in their emissions. The wood burning stove was mentioned. Yes, I'm not for handouts like that. However, when you see the data, which I saw, that shows the amount of pollution coming out of those wood burning stoves, I think you may consider that as something that was worth passing. And in the process, I have a relative who's a wood burner who can't afford to upgrade to a furnace. People like that would take that incentive and it would improve the air quality. It's up to us. It's up to the people to make those improvements. And I think the air in Utah and primarily Cache County is a lot better because of that. As I said, I'm not for handouts. I'm not for those kinds of things, but sometimes it makes sense. Some of the things that I've been said, just as a rebuttal. Housing affordability is an issue, and it's something I will stand behind. There's no money going towards housing affordability in the next year and maybe in the next several years, and that would be towards financing for first-time users. But also CVTD, which my opponent worked for, was a free service that's not used by everybody using tax money for that. Thank you.
This is our last question. Representative Potter, please explain what the government should do regarding access to firearms with people who pose a risk to themselves and the general population.
I love this question. This is a red flag law. I hate red flag laws. I've fought for the last 2 years for a bill that was brought before the legislature, never made to committee because of me and several others fighting against it. What a red flag law does is it allows somebody for pretty much any reason to call law enforcement and say, this person is a danger to themselves or their family, come and get their guns. I do not support that, and I will not support that. It's passed in several other states, and it's been nothing but a problem in those states. I will not support that. I'm on law enforcement and criminal justice, and as such, I see all of the law enforcement, all of the gun bills that come through, and there's a lot of bills that are brought forward by a number of people that are trying to chisel away at the Second Amendment, and I fight them vigorously. This is a list of the firearm legislation that's come before my committee in the last year. There were several good bills. Corey Malloy has been a real advocate of the Second Amendment. He's done a great job there. But many of the bills, he's not on that committee, and I've been the one that's been fighting the hardest for the Second Amendment rights. I'm behind that all the way. Thank you.
Yeah, owning a firearm is a constitutional right. And like Representative Potter, I do not support red flag laws. In fact, I was talking with a friend just a couple of days ago about this question and wanted to get his thoughts about it. And he said, you know, he actually visited a home recently because his neighbor was having some significant personal problems. His family had just fallen apart. His wife and children had just left. So he went over to visit this neighbor. And the neighbor said, through the course of the conversation, he expressed that he was having some suicidal ideation. At which point my friend said, do you happen to have a gun in your home? And he said, yeah, we do actually. And so my friend said, would it be all right if I took that from you now and kept it for a while until you're ready to have it back to protect you? And this neighbor was actually very grateful. And I think, boy, how could that story have been different had a red flag law been in place and maybe the police came and knocked on the door and demanded to get that back? And we read sometimes about the tragedies that happen with those kinds of things. It's much better, I think, that we have caring people, that we teach people about their options when they are feeling stressed, or when we know of our friends or neighbors who are feeling stressed and problemed. We already have laws on the books to prevent felons and others to have weapons that they shouldn't have. Let's enforce those, and let's continue to protect our Second Amendment rights. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our questions. We'll now have closing statements. We'll start with Mr. Petersen, 3 minutes, and then Representative Potter, 3 minutes.
Thank you. I got into this race because last December, the tax reform bill came up. And at first I hadn't paid much attention to it, but the more I looked at it, the more I became a little disturbed. You know, it was 62,000 words when I put it through the spell checker. 62,000 words. Our U.S. Constitution is about 7,500 words. And those 62,000 words actually don't even account for all the tentacles that went into other bills. I was concerned about lots of things about it. We'd mentioned before about the winners and losers, and we talked about the gas tax hike and the food tax hike that was going to affect people. We talked about services that were going to be taxed. There were just a myriad of reasons why that tax bill really wasn't a good tax bill. And so as I saw that and went back home, I spent about 30 hours helping to make sure that referendum passed. But when I went back home and I did a little research about it, I said, I wonder if there are other bills that our current representative votes for that I wouldn't vote for. And as I did my research, I found that sure enough, while there are things that we agree on, like the Second Amendment gun right, but there are many things that we have differing opinions on. And so that's why I got into this race. I'm about reducing the size of government. I'm about reducing the amount of taxes that we pay. I'm about restoring our liberty, making sure that we have the ability to make choices that we want to make. I'm asking you that you help me, that you join me in taking conservative, constituent-driven representation back to our state capitol. You can visit my website, voteformikepetersen.com. You can call me. My cell number is 435-770-6925, and I'd be happy to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking. I don't have all the answers. I'd like to know how you feel about issues, and I want to restore your voice. Thank you.
Great, thank you. This has been a pleasure to be here. Let me start off by saying I love the Constitution. I love this great land we live in. I love Utah. I live a conservative life. I am a conservative legislator. I work hard for the Republican Party. I represent our values, and I have. I mentioned to you, I've been elected and reelected over and over from the Republican delegates and from the Republican population. I represent 40,000 diverse residents of Cache County. I don't please everybody, but I work hard to do what's right for the state today and for the future of our state. That's what I do. Cache County needs a strong delegation of legislators. We fight hard to get our voices heard. And get this, I'm the longest serving House member in northern Utah. All the way northern Utah, I'm the longest serving, and I've been there 3.5 years. Seniority matters. It does. I have that seniority. Senator Hilliard, my hat's off to you because you work so hard for the people. Your seniority matters, your respect in the legislature. I just had to say that. Chris Wilson is a friend of mine. I know him, I like him, but Lyle Hilliard has been amazing. He's saved me, he's saved the county many, many times. We don't know how much he's done for us. I won't apologize for having experience in elected office. I won't. I've worked hard. I've done what I've needed to for the people of Utah, for the people of Cache County, and I will continue to do so. I opted to run for elected office. I made the sacrifice of running for office, and I've done the job, and I enjoy the job. I've represented the people that elected me, and I do listen to those people. I mentioned Bridgerland and technical education. Because of the seniority and the contacts I have, we were able to get the Bridgerland building, the health sciences building, approved. Technical education is better. The elected officials in Cache County, business leaders, state leaders endorse me. Check that on my website, votevalpotter.com. I'm chair of the budget of the Business, Economic Development, and Labor, as I've said before. I'm working to ensure that the state will rebound from this economic crisis. This isn't small, this is huge. This is a big thing. Having experience right now is critical for the state of Utah and for Cache County. We compete against legislators from Utah County, Salt Lake County, Davis County, who make a lot of noise. And we need to make that much or more, and we're doing it. Cache County is heard because of that. I'm supported by the Cache Education Association, Utah Ag Producers, Cache Realtors, the Public Employees Association, Salt Lake Chamber of Business, the Business Champion Award for 4 years now, Public Safety, League of Cities, Association of Counties. My endorsements are on my website as well. With experience comes the support of the House and the Senate, and because of that support, I'm getting things done. I ask for your support in the upcoming primary. Thank you so much.
Mr. Petersen, Representative Potter, we appreciate you being here tonight. Appreciate everything that you've done throughout your campaigns, and want to remind everyone, primary voters, that ballots will be going out. They'll be mailed out Tuesday, June 9th, so look for those to hit your mailboxes early next week. And if you do not get your ballot, please reach out to the county clerk's office so that they can help locate your ballot and get that to you, so you have that opportunity to exercise that right that is yours to vote in this primary. Also, if you need to update anything, you can go to vote.utah.gov, update or look at your registration, make sure that everything's correct there. We appreciate everybody who has joined us tonight. This will be, again, it will be downloaded and uploaded to our website, and you can go back into here on our Facebook page and watch this over and over again ad nauseum until you figure out, till you remember every word they've said. Again, my thanks to, and on behalf of the County Republican Party, my thanks to Mr. Petersen, Representative Potter. Appreciate both of you, and best of luck to you.
Thanks.